Hello and welcome to In My Podcast Era, the podcast where I chat to my favorite creators about the eras that they've been in, the eras that they're currently in, and the eras that they're entering. My guest on the podcast today is someone who, in my few brief encounters, has made an incredible impact on my life. They're an amazing multimedia artist. Everywhere I turned my head during Pride, their work was there, and now I have the pleasure of having them on my podcast. Kris Andrew Smalls, aka
Good
just
morning.
Kris. I'll call you Kris.
Yeah, please do.
Address
me by my full name at all
Kris Andrew
times.
Smalls.
I'm good. I'm really tired. It's really early for me, but I'm good.
You know, I'm just trying to do the most.
Yeah, maximize the time.
Yeah.
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. The way I ask questions, it's like huge ass paragraph. I have to write them as like I'm thinking. I know, it's really cool.
Wow.
I need to work on this. I'm not a journalist. I am a person who likes making videos.
Yeah.
And that's me. What current era are you in?
I'm in my self-reflective era, I think. I've been going at this for like 4 or 5 years now, doing what I actually want for a living. And it's been really, really intense. Now I'm just trying to make it about me. I don't really like have a separation between my life and my work. It's like the same thing, which is...
Whoa. How does that play out for you?
Like my job is my hobby. Like if I really liked playing golf, like and that was my hobby, no one would tell me to play golf less.
Yeah.
You know? Like it's a really good life, so I'm willing to kind of like have the negative. Like life isn't perfect. You need some amount of sufferance. Brings me a lot of joy. Brings me a lot of stress, anxiety, and all the other things. But I think it's worth it at the end of the day.
When did you decide like that's working for you?
I think I've always been this way. Like I've always been doing, like even when I was studying and I was like, oh my God, I'm not good enough for these like things that I've been given. So I would work crazily hard because then I could say that it was good enough because I knew I'd work like an insane amount of time on it, or I'd make 1,000 versions and then I go, okay, that's the best one because I've made all of the versions that's humanly possible to make.
Yeah.
Eventually I was like, this is just insane. But I did not want to make anything. I didn't want to look at my computer. I didn't want to do anything. And I was like, I need to change this. Like it's not healthy. I basically got drunk and made this piece of work in like 5 minutes. And it kind of became like one of my most successful pieces. It's in the Louvre.
Actually?
And
Whoa.
that in the design wing of the Louvre, which is still the Louvre, but it's like, obviously I'm not going to be in like the Renaissance section. Not that I'm like saying get drunk and make work, but I'm like, you can make something that's really in the moment in 5 minutes and it's good enough. You don't have to make 1,000 versions.
I think there's so many young creators that really get stuck in that headspace that I need to master exactly what the fuck it is I'm doing and who I am before I put my work out. And I feel like that time, it's kind of better just to send yourself out and project. And
I agree. I'm always saying that to people, but I think that's really hard for a lot of people. I don't know. My mum is she's not dead, but when I was a kid, I was so shy. Like I was painfully, and like in retrospect, obviously, because I was like super insecure about being gay, I would like go to sleepovers and cry and want to go home because I just like couldn't handle like talking to people. It was too much. And my mom was like, you just need to learn to, because I wouldn't ask for anything. So I'd like go a day without water because I was too like afraid to ask anyone for water.
I also have like a really similar experience. My favorite thing to do, I had my little Pokemon toys and like in the backyard, and I just didn't want anyone to play with me because like they couldn't match my like not they couldn't
They didn't
match
curate it in the right way.
the world. Yeah, I had like relationships, dynamic.
Yeah.
I couldn't explain that to
No,
someone as a
they
kid.
wouldn't get it. Yeah.
Do you think you were forced into being this person you are now?
I did really bad amateur theatre. That's how I got my confidence.
Me too. Bitch.
I moved to London when I was 20 by myself. I remember being so lonely in the beginning. And I was like, I can't be like, this is going to suck if I don't talk to people. Yeah. So I used to work in this cafe when I first moved to London. And this girl came in and I remember she was like very, very, very cool. And I was like, wow, she's really cool. And I was like, oh, so what do you do for a living? She's like, oh, I'm an actor. And I was like, oh, like blessed. Because I was 20 and I was an artist. I had no money. So I was like, yeah. Oh, what are you doing right now? She's like, oh, a movie. I was like, oh, like student film. And then like maybe a month passed, my friend had come to work like by that time and she was like, oh my God, it's Keira Knightley. So for like a month I'd been talking to Keira Knightley, but I was so naive. I'd like moved from Brisbane. I didn't think like celebrities came to like coffee shop. And then the second I knew it was her, I was like, I can't. She's like, oh, I'm working on a movie. And I was like, student film. It was like Pirates of the Caribbean.
Oh my.
Yeah, so I was almost best friends with Keira Knightley. I am quite shy still. If I'm not in the context where I feel comfortable, I'm pretty shy. I think I just kept forcing myself to be okay with
I
it.
actually think it's like a matter of like when you create those safe spaces, I don't know about you, but for me, that's given me like a lot of confidence, like with my friends, with my community and stuff. Like, did that happen overseas for you? And
Yeah, I think when I moved, because I grew up in Brisbane, and like Brisbane was like a shithole. So there's that, and then I moved to London, and all of a sudden I was in this like place where like I was in like a little bubble where everyone was super like camp and super whatever, and it was okay to be whatever you want. But then at the same time, like London's a lot more dangerous, so people were getting like gay bashed like every weekend, and like so it was kind of this weird thing where it was, I felt unsafe in that I thought I was like physically in danger, but I felt safe in a sense that I felt like I have found a community.
you know, your friends are a mirror of your behaviors and actions. You attract what you put out. Taking those steps and investing, because it is your relationships, even friendships, are an investment, right?
I'm bad with money, but I'm good at investing in my
Period. Literally. Yeah. Last time I spoke to you, there was like 2 really great things you said to me. But one of the first ones was,
I like that you think that. I say so much shit that I forget any of it means anything.
You know those like click moments where like things make sense? I was like, I get those. It's actually sick. Anyway, I'm shy now, so I'm going to ask the question. Something that you said really resonates with me still to this day. And I noticed I have popcorn and like no fruit on my bench. But you know where this is going. You were
we
like,
talked about this.
Yeah, I have been eating pretty well.
I don't see a sing. Oh, is it real?
It's a
candle.
candle.
The one piece of fruit in your living room is a candle.
And I think like for my ADHD brain, gamifying things is really fun, but this really stuck with me. You should invest in your health like a sector of your own business. I think we operate in like a very similar way where the work and life balance isn't, it's all one. And when did that come up for you? Like, when was it like a point for you in your like journey that you were like, oh, this actually needs some attention?
There's several things, but I still remember. I remember in my like shitty London flat. Oh, this is so gross. I don't eat meat now, so it's even more gross. But I was eating like microwaved like stick kebabs. Like was eating it and I saw myself in the mirror and I was like, the visual of it was too much. But I still didn't know how to cook, so I kind of just like boiled vegetables. So I'm a good preparer of food. I'm not a good cook. I'm too impatient to follow a recipe. I think I've always been somewhat health conscious. I think because I have no routine. I've always freelanced, like since I had a full-time job once and I got made redundant. So I never saw the safety in a full-time job. When you are a freelancer for such a long time, there's like no stability in it. Like it's highs and lows. And even now, like after, you know, doing it for a decade or so, like there's no work for a week. I'm like, fuck, it's all over. Like they finally figured out I'm not good enough. You know, I don't think this ends at any level. Which
is super reassuring and also super scary.
yeah, it is.
But I feel like that's the reactions, right? It's
yeah. So I think you then go, okay, which I think this is what we talked about. You try and control your life in other ways. So the things I can control is me going to gym 4 times a week, me eating a certain way. Like those things I can control. I can't control what work's going to come in. I can control like what I put out and things like that, but I can't control the frequency. And you get to a point where for your own sanity, you just need to like have some structure in your life. And it is like, I'm happier when I eat well, when I exercise, like it's like a natural chemical situation in your body. I don't know the science of it, so I'm not going to pretend, but it's, you know, like you do feel a million times better. And I think if you're feeling particularly shitty or stressed or like insecure about work, you just don't need the insecurity of being like, fuck, I haven't had any vegetables or anything. Like it's the one thing that you can feel good about.
Psychologists call that tools. I've recently learned. No, seriously, like, you know, meditation is a tool, journaling
meditation is so good.
Yeah, I wish I could do it. I can't, but I journal.
It takes, I think you have to find, I also can't meditate.
My brain goes like,
I can't sit cross-legged to save my life for like a multitude of reasons. So that already makes it hard. But then
what's in between them?
It's for a different story.
Those tools are really important. And I think that's something I'm working on developing at the moment. Like you're always going to be thrown into different circumstances, into different environments, and you need a range of tools up your sleeve in order to be able to navigate and balance your emotions, whether it is meditation, working out, eating well, journaling, talking to someone. And the more tools I find that you equip yourself with, the easier you can kind of like traverse.
Because it becomes such a lifestyle. Like last year, I always travel a lot, but I was traveling for about 2 months and I was really starting to just like feel, I think because I was working a lot while traveling and I was having all these meetings and I was like constantly selling myself and talking about things and stuff. And I just fucking lost it. And I was like, I just want to go home, which I've never, like, normally it's the opposite. I'm like, I don't want to go home. And I realized it's because I wasn't exercising. I wasn't eating well. Like, the structure of my life had kind of been taken away. And I had, like, no structure in my life, no, like, balance, no nothing. I was just, like, this kind of, like, vessel of my own work, kind of lost in the world. And I think the second I started, like, I just started running, and, like, almost immediately I was back on track, kind of thing, because it became, like, the structure.
I'm going to read this off my notes because it's a long thought. I don't know if it's one question or many, but just do your best to answer.
I forget the question the second you say it.
Okay,
so
great.
See where this takes us.
We'll see. Okay, so as a creator, I guess I've struggled with feedback and resistance from my own community. I remember, like, you know, specifically on a recent queer campaign, I found myself getting bogged down in other people's perceptions and stuff. And one of the things you said to me was, like, to focus on the people that need your work. When have you personally had to, like, use that tool for yourself?
The queer space has, like, gone on turbo lately, like, and we are all trying to navigate it, and it is quite difficult. And there's you want to do these things, and then every now and then, like, I had a full-on panic attack when I did the Adidas collection because it was so everywhere. And I was like, what if people fucking hate it? Like, what if I, like, this is it? Like, this is going to ruin my career. I'm not patriotic. I don't know what it means to be patriotic. I'm kind of jealous when people are patriotic. I feel the same way almost in the queer sense. I'm like, I don't feel an allegiance to any of it. I've always thought of it as, like, one community. And I feel like, especially after this Pride, people were, like, starting to attack each other within the community. And I was like, this is the last fucking thing we need to be doing right now. Like, none of us are the enemy, and you have to be a little bit more sympathetic of each people. Like, everyone's got a different thing they've gone through to get. Listening to each other, talking to each other, being just kind to each other is what we should be doing. And I think looking at the greater enemy, for whatever reason, a giant group of humanity who just wants to repress anyone that's not the same as them, with the community, and it's a giant, like, they say, what, 20% of the world is queer.
I love that. Let's make it 50.
Probably it is 50.
I think
if you
like
stop
100.
Fucking repressing people, it probably would be 50.
Yeah.
If you just focus on the whole picture of the world as opposed to, like, your little bubble, you know, so it's a huge thing to tackle, but the crux of it, I think it's like, we just need to have empathy for each other and for people outside of our world who maybe don't understand everything, and, like, we can't always expect them to understand everything. All we can expect from them, I think, is empathy and compassion, and then I think we have to give that back.
It's a struggle because in one way we want people to accept us, and it's not our responsibility to make people like us.
And it's exhausting.
At the same time, all these people are scared, right? And I'm talking about the haters. I think it's just a matter of, like, understanding and connection and empathy. But sometimes we get so lost in like everything on the way that it just gets in our own way. And it's hard not to listen to. It's hard to shut those voices out when they're in your community and stuff. The takeaway from that is just to focus on the purpose of why you're doing things. And no matter what you're kind of experiencing when you're creating, that has to be your goal and your drive, because that's the only true, consistent truth, I guess, within your work. But in our last project, you talk a lot about the fact that you never felt like a shining star as a kid. I remember there was like a part of the interview where you were like, I wasn't really good at anything. I wasn't really good at this and this and this. But then I like started thinking about that. Then you pursued it as a career. And that's something that's been playing on my mind. That for me, that's phenomenal. You were set with like a standard to measure your success. And even though as a young kid, when the world was telling you you were wrong and your thing wasn't up to par for whatever reason, you still said, fuck you, I'm going to do it anyway. Where did that come from?
I think it's just my nature driven. Is putting it nicely. Stubborn is maybe realistic. I guess I knew deep down that I was good at being an artist or a designer, because like that was the only thing I really always gravitated toward. The medium for me never mattered. I just was like, I want to be a creative. I want to make art. I didn't know what else to do. Like if you're not that good at that many things, and then there's one thing you're like, well, I don't suck at this.
Yeah, so you have to go for it. I have these conversations with people and they're like, you do all these crazy stuff. Bro, I still don't know what half the things on the DJ do. I don't even know what the DJ thing's called.
Does anyone? I know 3% of Photoshop, and I spend most of my day in it.
And you get paid for it. I really want people to take away that you don't need to be a master at anything.
No.
Like that whole notion is bullshit.
That's like a 90s finance like textbook way of getting successful, I think. And I think that's the thing is that you don't have to be like, you don't have to be the best, but you need like everything. You need to be really fucking good, really driven, really kind. That's, I think, something people forget. So you just need to do all of those things as much as humanly possible and accept that it also just no, I do think if you keep going, it always works. It's just
but sometimes not in the ways you expect.
It might look different to what you think, but I think everyone can be successful in a way, kind of thing.
You just have to go for it.
Yeah. Are you going to call your mum now?
After. I'm going to call it today. I'll be like, oh, Mum, I had so many great chats.
Are you going to buy some fucking fruit?
Yes.
So I have to bring you a watermelon.
I would love that. Creators that are really exciting you. Or like anyone you want to shout out.
I just forget everyone's name.
Okay, here's one, Zotti. Creators that are really exciting you that aren't me.
Aside from you, which obviously my most exciting.
Thank you.
I love Studio Yonk, which is a Dutch British. They're kind of like a VR sculpting studio.
Sick.
And they just make really weird like characters.
Whoa, this is a hectic one. What is not me being surprised by my own questions? What is the most valuable piece of advice you've ever received?
There's a few. One is keep evolving, balance, like keeping balance in everything. And then my mum just saying like always ask. That I think that's also a really good piece of advice. But just don't fucking give up. That's the key to everything.
Final question. It's 5 to 10 years in the future. You're older than you already are now. No, I'm joking. No, you're never going to come back. I'm joking. I'm being funny. Yeah, 5 to 10 years in the future. Paint the picture of what that's looking like for you or what you like it to look like.
I'd like the trajectory to continue, but on turbo, if that makes sense. So I'm happy to an extent with where I've been able to get to. And I would just like that to be times 10. I think recently through work, I've had a lot of like incredible experiences. And so I would like a lot more of those.
Yeah.
So I think in a career perspective, I would just like it to keep growing so I can get to the end of my life and I can go, wow, I had like an insane amount of experiences. Basically, I would like to maintain the life I have now forever, for as long as I live, till 105 at least. As we talked before, I'm not the person I grew up as. And I feel like I really earned that. So I'm grateful for that. And the people around me, I'm very grateful for that as well. Yeah, I'm grateful for your plants being alive until they're dead. Because you crossed me.
Thank you so much for chatting today.
Thanks for having me.
I really appreciate it. I can't
Likewise.
wait to see what you do next. And please come back for season 2.
I will. If
you like the content we made today, make sure you like, subscribe, drop a comment. Until next time. Okay, cool.